Observations from the Sabres preseason opener, number 10 through 12 in our Sabres Money and Power List, both ahead on Monday's edition of the Locked On Sabres podcast.
You're Locked On Sabres, your daily podcast on the Buffalo Sabres. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Sabres your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Odyssey, Apple Podcasts. Thanks for tuning in to today's show. Joe DiBiase at Sneaky Joe Sports joining you today at Locked On Sabres to follow us on social media. If you're looking to hit us up on Twitter, we love getting questions on Twitter for the show. I've got a poll up there that actually is finished. We're always putting polls up and whatnot, reaction to Sabre games, including their preseason game against the Washington Capitals. Preseason game number 1 is in the books. Not going to lie, I did not watch it live. Watched it after the fact, as I'm imagining a lot of Sabre fans did that are also Bills fans. 2 o'clock on a Sunday, when the Bills were playing at 1 o'clock on a Sunday. Yeah, I was not watching that one live, but watched it back after the fact. It was being streamed on NHL Network, so it was easy to find for those that wanted to watch it back. But an interesting game. I've got a bunch of thoughts. I wrote down some notes, and we're gonna tap into my notebook from Sunday's game, and also number 10 through 12 in our Sabres Money and Power List. Stay tuned for that later in the show as we count down the 30 most impactful individuals in the Sabres organization. We started at 30. We now rest at number 12. We'll do 12, 11, and 10 today, and the top 10 coming your way in the next week. So the Sabres beat the Capitals with a win. If you care about the score, I don't. The only what you probably do is if you bet them. Just, natural reminder to everybody that the preseason, you should not care about the score, and all we should be looking at is how certain individuals are playing, what their readiness looks like for the NHL level, what positions players are playing, goaltending, evaluation and whatnot. We're just in evaluating mode, seeing what these guys look like, the rookies, guys that won't be with the Sabres throughout the season, the guys that are going to return to juniors like Jiri Kulich and probably Matthew Savoy. Those guys. It's our first chance to look at them in a Sabre uniform, and it will probably be the last chance to get a look at them until next season, unless you're planning on watching some WHL hockey. And I know there are some nerdy hockey fans out there that are going to be doing that. I'll be doing a little of that along the way, but most Sabre fans will not be getting a look at these guys for at least 12 months. So Savoy, we've got Kulich in the game for the Sabres, couple of first-round rookies that suited up for the Sabres against the Capitals. It was largely a rookie roster. The Sabres actually had more NHL roster players than the Capitals did. If you look at the Capitals roster, there might be 2 names you recognize. You'll recognize Anthony Mantha, who scored a power play goal in the first period. You'll recognize Connor Sherry, former Sabre, veteran for the Caps. He scored a goal, I believe it was early in the third period. But past that, like Nick Jensen is a regular NHLer for the Caps, and that was about it. Peyton Krebs' brother was playing for the Capitals. Drew Krebs, I didn't know that. So that was another recognizable name, but it was the Capitals B team for sure. The Sabres was maybe a little bit more evenly distributed. Dylan Cousins played in this game. Rasmus Asplund played in this game. You had Peyton Krebs in this game. And that probably does it for shoe-in NHLers. Vinny Hinostroza would be another one. So 4 or 5 guys that are going to be in the NHL. Maybe a couple of others that are competing for spots, but Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen would have been that. Casey Fitzgerald would have been that. And some of the kids, Jack Quinn, JJ Peterka. So I got some thoughts on all of those, and we'll tap into my notebook coming up in here in a matter of moments. But I do want to start with where guys lined up. And the center position, one of the 3 things I told you to watch out for in training camp in the preseason is who Don Granato has at center, because the Sabres have a lot of centermen or players that can play center, can play wing, and who's going to play what. Who that's on the development track is going to play center, because that might give us a sign as to who they plan on being a center long term. Well, on Sunday against the Capitals, the Sabres' 4 centermen were Dylan Cousins, Peyton Krebs, Matthew Savoy, and Tyson Kozak. Kozak was actually having a nice prospect challenge, nice preseason opener, no threat at all to make the team, so we'll throw him out for a moment. But Savoy, okay, good. I think he's the centerman in the organization with the most upside. So Savoy plays center on the night. Krebs, I thought, was probably going to play wing. That's where he played a lot of his minutes last year for the Sabres under Don Granato, but they're trying him out at center. I think that's a good idea. I'd like to see Middlestat be the one who adjusts to the wing. In fact, the poll I put up at Locked On Sabres earlier in the week was, of the three, Dylan Cousins, Peyton Krebs, Casey Middlestat, who do you most want to see move to the wing? And an overwhelming majority at 60.7% said Casey Middlestat. 28.1% said Peyton Krebs. 11.2% said Dylan Cousins. So Krebs at center. That's our first sign at where Don Granato has, his center depth chart listed. Krebs at center with Lukas Rosek and Jiri Kulich. Kulich, by the way, was drafted as a center, but he maybe more than anybody has been projected to be a winger. So of the 3 guys they picked in the first round, Kulich, Oslin, and Savoy. So not too stunning that Kulich plays his first preseason action for the Sabres on the wing, but he is a guy that we'll be wondering about down the road too. Is he a center? Is he a winger? Krebs at center. And then Cousins skates at center in night 1. That is expected. I'm not guessing he's going to play the wing. First time I really noticed him playing the wing ever was at the World Championships for Team Canada this past summer, and he did great. But Don Granato's never really showed a motivation or a curiosity or any interest in putting him on the wing. So maybe that changes down the road someday, but I don't think Cousins is really in play for that at all. I think Krebs is in play for it, but he starts down the middle. So Cousins, Krebs, Savoy, Kozak are the Sabres centermen night number 1. By the way, if you're wondering, some of the line combinations may be a good sign for JJ Quinn or for JJ Peterka and Jack Quinn. They were skating with Dylan Cousins. Line 1 for the Sabres on the night in terms of ice time was Dylan Cousins centering JJ Peterka and Jack Quinn. Krebs was centering Jiri Kulich and Lukas Rosek. I don't think Rosek is any threat to make this team at all. Kulich, I wonder if Kulich versus Savoy for the 9-game look at the beginning of the season that junior players can get before you burn the entry-level deal on their contract, the first entry-level year on their contract. And Kulich, I'll get to it in a second, but Kulich, I wrote down some positive things about him in my notes about this game. Savoy, by the way, was centering Rasmus Asplund and Vinny Hinostroza. So maybe an interesting thing there that Krebs, who's going to be on the NHL roster, centered 2 guys that probably aren't going to be on the NHL roster. And Savoy, who we've been guessing is not a threat to make this team, was centering 2 guys that are going to be on the NHL roster in Rasmus Asplund and Vinny Hinostroza. Then Tyson Kozak centered Riley Sheahan and Brett Murray. The blue line, I didn't write down a lot about the blue line because I don't think a single defenseman that was on that 6 is going to be playing opening night. Lawrence Pilot did lead the team in ice time. He was on the first pairing with Casey Fitzgerald. I think those are the 2 guys that are your 7th, 8th defenseman if the Sabres run into injuries at all. And then the rest of the blue line, don't even worry about it. Nick Clegg, I know he might be a call-up guy at some point, but none of the rest of the blue line is really worth caring about. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, by the way, did play and played the entirety of the game for the Sabres in net, which is good. Get the guy as many minutes as possible, see how close he is to NHL ready, and see if he can join the Sabres at some point in the middle of the season. So we'll get to my notes from Sabres and Capitals. Sabres 4-3 win over the Capitals in their preseason opener when we come back. And also stay tuned because later in the show, we're going to count down 12, 11, and 10 in our Sabres money and power list as we work our way from 30 to 1. So 12, 11, and 10 is coming up here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Here on Locked On Sabres, we are brought to you by Athletic Greens. head over to athleticgreens.com. You can get them in a bunch of different varieties. You could get the powder that you can scoop into your water in the morning. You could put a scoop in your coffee. They've got the droplets. That's what I use. Just one little drop in your coffee or water, and that's all you need. Other products as well. If you want chews or you want a bar, head over to their website and look at all of the different options they have at AG1, where you're absorbing 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. It's lifestyle friendly, whether you're eating keto or paleo, vegan, dairy free, or gluten free. They contain less than 1 gram of sugar and no GMOs, no nasty chemicals, or artificial anything. It'll cost you less than $3 a day, and you're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit. It's cheaper than getting all the different supplements yourself, and you're investing in an all-in-one nutritional insurance. Athletic Greens, it's backed by it's recommended by professional athletes, trusted by leading health experts, over 7,000 5-star reviews. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network, athleticgreens.com/NHL Network, take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Joe DiBiase back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. All right, watching back the Sabres preseason victory over the Washington Capitals after preempting it for the Bills lost to Miami. Things I wrote down in my notes watching back on that game. Let's go through my notes from the Sabres win over the Capitals. The number one thing, of course, was the goal by Dylan Cozens. It was a goal scorer's goal, cutting into the high slot to open the scoring for the Sabres. Cozens with a very good finish, top high corner over the goaltender's shoulder, Zach Fucale of the Washington Capitals. Cozens had a good night playing with the two kids, Peterka and Quinn, and Cozens led the team with 5 shot attempts. He was very impressive in this game, and we'll be watching out for him, of course, in the regular season to see if he can take an offensive jump from 36 points maybe into the 50s. Matthew Savoy, the Sabres' 9th overall pick in the NHL draft. I thought he had some moments. He didn't flash every shift as much as I thought he might, but he was solid. Not a lot of mistakes, especially in his own end. I thought he was pretty rock solid. And there was some flash. You saw the hands on display. You saw the shot on display. And I thought he played very well. By the way, preseason, but you do get some advanced numbers in these preseason games from Natural Stat Trick. So we do have some Corsi numbers. We do have some expected goals for numbers. And, Savoy, middle of the pack. A 40, what was the number? 40% Corsi for. That's not too great. And a 41.16% expected goals for. So you've seen worse. Wasn't the worst you've ever seen, but not great, to put it frankly, for Savoy. But overall, I liked a lot of the things I saw, just not as much flash and not as much wow plays as you might have expected. Jack Quinn, great finish on the game-tying goal. I thought he struggled a lot in this game, though, otherwise. He did actually have the lowest expected goals for on the entire team, but there were a couple of giveaways, didn't carry the puck all that much. There were lapses when he was out there on the ice where I just didn't even notice him, because on that line with Cozens and Peterka, he's third in the pecking order in terms of carrying the puck. Peterka is a puck carrier, and I thought he looked very good with some offensive zone entries. Cozens is that as well. Cozens may be the best offensive zone entry guy on the team. So Quinn was more relegated to a shooter, which is what he is, and that's what he was drafted to be. He did present more in his game in Rochester, but the shooting, I mean, that's where the value comes with him, right? And that goal to tie the game with just over a minute left, picks the puck up in tight. He's in tight with the goaltender. He's got to curl it and roof it over the goalie's shoulder with a very low amount of space, and he does it. He gets enough on his stick, able to lift the puck enough to get it over the goalie's shoulder, and a very nice goal by Jack Quinn to tie the game. Peterka, as I mentioned, looked great carrying the puck. I had that written down. I wrote down Jiri Kulich looks ready for the NHL. He looks like he's ahead of course, Noah Östlund. I don't think Noah Östlund has any chance of making this team or even for the 9-game look. I think he's headed back overseas. Kulich looks ready, and he's going to be in the AHL possibly this season. He could be a call-up at some point this year. So Savoy, if he gets sent down, that's going to be the WHL. So if Savoy gets sent down, maybe you see him for a couple of games at the end of the regular season. But Kulich could earn his way onto the team midway through the year if he plays well enough in Rochester. So keep your eye on Jiri Kulich because he might look like he's ahead of the pack in terms of this most recent Sabres draft class. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, I thought, was solid. He allowed 3 goals in this game. 24 saves on 27 shots. That's an .889. It's an .889 save percentage. I think was one of his goals on the power play. I had that in front of me and I forgot it. I forgot to write it down. But anyways, 24 saves and 27 shots. Great side-to-side movement. And we'll keep an eye on Luukkonen going forward, but I thought he had a good game. I loved Lawrence Pilot on the night. A lot of great passing. He makes the play on the game-winning goal at overtime. Hino Stroza camped in front of the net, ends up redirecting it past the goaltender, but the pass is by Pilot, floating from the point to the left wall, little saucer pass out into the front of the net, and Hino is able to put it away. But I like Pilot a lot. He's what you expect, right? He's not physical. He's not all that fast. He's not going to wow you with any single thing. And there will be moments where you get a little frustrated with him because he can get outmanned. His size kind of gives way. But guy is so good and so consistent with his passing. Quarterbacking the power play at different points of the game. He really provides some strong value when it comes to passing, and it's why I think he should be on the NHL team this year, not the AHL. And I'm not putting him anywhere above the 3rd pairing or maybe even on the roster. I could see him being the 7th guy if I was in charge, but I think he's battling for that 7th spot right now, and I think it was a good start for him. 57% expected goals for, one of the best marks on the team for Pilot, and a 52.9% Corsi for. So 52.9% of the shot attempts coming the Sabres' way. It's pretty close to 50-50. Those numbers via natural stat trick, by the way. So those are my notes from Sabres and Capitals. Their 4-3 win over Washington. The Sabres' next preseason game, I should have this committed to memory, but a lot of football things going on right now. Flyers. That's right. The Tuesday preseason opener. So tomorrow against the Philadelphia Flyers, it's a 7:00 puck drop. And we might get some more. The Sabres did a good job splitting up their NHL guys. So you'll see a lot of NHL guys tomorrow for the Sabres when they play the Philadelphia Flyers. When we come back, 10 through 12 in our Sabres money and power list as we evaluate the most important individuals and rank the most impactful individuals in the Sabres organization making this team successful. 10 through 12 on the way next here on Locked On Sabres. Welcome back to the Locked On Sabres podcast. Joe DiBiase at Sneaky Joe Sports joining you today on this Monday post-Sabres win in the preseason. Might need a little break from the Bills and the frustration that came with that loss in Miami. So we're happy to provide that for you. All right, we continue along on our Sabres money and power list, and the Buffalo Sabres they're tracking well. Everyone's feeling pretty good about them going into the season. Who are the 30 most important individuals of the team? We ranked them, and so far in the list, flying through it from 30 up. Eric Portillo, Seth Appert, Rasmus Asplund, Henry Jokiharju, Matt Ellis, Jiri Kulich, Noah Ostlund, Craig Oster, Rasmus Dahlin's agent, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, Jeff Skinner, Ryan Johnson, Jerry Fortin, the director of amateur scouting, Peyton Krebs, JJ Peterka, Matthias Samuelsson, Kyle Okposo, associate general manager Jason Karmanos, and at number 13, we left off with Dylan Cousins. Number 12 in our Sabres money and power list is Devin Levi. Sabres goaltending prospect Devin Levi, who will not be with the Sabres this season, will be returning to Northeastern for his sophomore season. He is not under contract with the team, and he was a 7th-round pick, not a highly thought-of prospect until that World Junior Championships a couple of years ago where he broke out. And then last year, the breakout season in college, the greatest college season we've seen in 2 decades at least at the collegiate level. He's returning to try to win a national championship and maybe a Hobie Baker. I think Levi deserves being above guys like Cousins, Samuelsson, Peterka, Krebs, because he plays a position we do not have an answer to. Cousins plays a position that at least we have a couple of other guys. We have Tage Thompson. We have Peyton Krebs. We have Casey Middlestat. There are other options. And if Cousins doesn't take a step forward, the sky is not falling. But Devin Levi plays a position we have no answer to. The Sabres have no answer to in goal. Luukkonen could be an answer. Eric Comrie could be an answer. But there's no definitive answer right now to who the Sabres franchise netminder is. And I think Devin Levi, I think most would agree, Devin Levi outranks the rest as the guy that is most likely to take the reins as the Sabres franchise netminder for years to come. Now, it's college. It could be fluky. It's very hard to transition from the collegiate level to the NHL level. It's a tough guessing game. And there are many times where star college goalies do nothing at the NHL level or don't even become NHL goaltenders. Matt O'Connor, once upon a time, Boston University, played with Jack Eichel, was thought of as, a hot commodity coming out of college. And, there's this race to get him. And Ottawa ended up getting him. And he played like 10 games in the NHL, and that was it. Strauss Mann out of Michigan, a couple years ago, had an incredible season for Michigan as their starting goaltender, above Sabre prospect Eric Portillo. He signed in Switzerland, not even NHL goaltender. Levi looks great. I'm excited. I'm optimistic. He's going to be the Sabres franchise netminder. But thinking that it's any type of likely or probable to happen, you don't know NHL goalie development enough because it is a crapshoot. So because it's a crapshoot, I put Levi as low as 12. But because he plays a position that we need and the Sabres need an answer to, he outranks a couple of other guys of significance at number 12. Number 11 in our Sabres money and power list, the most important individuals in the Sabres organization, Jack Quinn. Number 11 is Jack Quinn, 8th overall pick by the Sabres a couple of years ago. And the reason I have Quinn so high at number 11, I think right now he has the second highest. There's another guy I haven't got to yet that I think has a higher upside. I think Quinn, of anyone in the organization, has the second highest upside offensively. If there was going to be a Sabres player in the organization to turn into a 90-plus point player, there's only one person I would take above Jack Quinn right now. I'm not guessing Quinn's going to be that. I think he'll probably end up being more of a 30-goal scoring guy, 60 to 70 points, but I do think there's a chance the ceiling for Quinn is even higher. And I'm thinking that way because of his most recent season in Rochester. I was not thinking that way about him 1 year ago, but he just had one of the greatest AHL seasons we have seen by a player of his age in decades. He was a point-per-game player. He's developed the rest of his game around the elite shot that got him drafted in the top 10. He's making plays as a playmaker and a setup guy. He's carrying the puck more in Rochester. He is just an overwhelming offensive force for the Amherst. And if he's on the NHL level this year for the Sabres, I would expect him to show right up as a rookie and be a Calder candidate. So I have Jack Quinn, number 11, as being the second highest upside in the whole organization offensively. Number 10 in our Sabres money and power list, Tage Thompson is number 10. He does crack the top 10. I had him at number 10 before he signed the contract. I didn't change it. I think the contract, that was kind of expected, so that's why I'm leaving it. I didn't expect it this soon. $7.1 million for 7 more seasons after this coming year, where he will only make $1.4 million. There is a lot of pressure on Thompson to continue what he did last season. Now that he has the contract, now that he is locked in, and he's locked in at a big cap hit, he cannot regress. He cannot regress. He might be able to regress a little bit in terms of his shot percentage, but the rest of his game needs to at least stay the same, if not take a step forward, because for right now, he is the Sabres' number 1 center. I would like to see someone else, Matthew Savoy, Oslin, Jiri Kulich, Peyton Krebs. I would like to see somebody come over top of Thompson as a number 1 center, because Thompson lacks the elite playmaking ability that I think you need out of a number 1 center. He's kind of weird as a top level center in that he's the goal scorer of his line. And usually number 1 centermen will have twice the assists that they have goals. Thompson has more goals than assists. So I have at number 10 because for now, he's the number one center. He has the massive contract. There is pressure on him to maintain what he did last season, but I don't have him higher because I think he lacks the playmaking ability, the playmaking wherewithal and hockey IQ to become a legitimate number one center. He is number one center in this team by default. I think on a good team, he is a number two centerman, and the Sabres will need somebody, I think, to develop over top of him on this team. Thompson at number 10, Quinn at number 11, Levi at number 12. That is 10 through 12 on our Sabres money and power list. We will go through the rest of the top 10 and our next coming shows. The next couple, we're doing 3 per show, so we should have 3 more episodes of that before we get you to number 1. All right, Sabres and Flyers in their next preseason game. Of course, we continue to like and subscribe us wherever you may be listening. Greatly appreciate anybody giving us a 5-star review. Really helps us out. And also, be sure to throw more questions our way on Twitter at Locked On Sabres or on our YouTube channel, where you could also watch us. Be sure to watch us on our YouTube channel and subscribe there. All right, so that's going to do it for us today in the Locked On Sabres podcast. We got a betting preview to come. We've got an opening night lineup draft to come for the Sabres, and of course, we'll continue to cover the preseason matchups. Flyers tomorrow. And then in Columbus for the Blue Jackets on Wednesday. Thanks for making Locked On Sabres your first listen every day. Now go make your second listen Locked On NHL. Locked On experts giving you a daily 30-minute podcast on all things NHL all year long. Stay up to date on everything in the hockey world. Locked On NHL, your daily 30-minute podcast.